There is no minimum credit score for a VA loan. It's going to be challenging to get that credit score up without some dramatic credit repair, and sometimes even that does not work. So what happens when somebody does not have that 740, 800, even 650 or above FICO score, and they have a checkered past? What is the minimum credit score on a VA loan? On this episode of Major Money Matters. Welcome to Major Money Matters. My name is Major. If it's your first time to the channel, I do welcome you to like, comment, and subscribe, because this is something that not many veterans understand, not many realtors understand, and it prevents people from getting into homes, specifically in the veteran community, because the VA loan is one of the most flexible loans that there is to help somebody get into a home. It is the ultimate down payment assistance program. It is the ultimate first-time home buyer program. The VA loan beats them all because you earned your home with your service to our country. So people often ask me, what's the minimum credit score for a VA loan? And I will tell you a snapshot. Here's the cheat code. There is no minimum credit score for a VA loan. Individual lenders happen to put their own requirement for VA loans on their individual bank. So you can go to Navy Federal or you can go to USAA, and they tell you that, hey, your minimum credit score or your credit score doesn't meet the minimum. Therefore, you need to go away and then come back in 3 to 6 months or whatever once you get your credit score up. And then you spend a bunch of time working on your credit score while the price of homes continue to go up, while you continue to rent, while you try to fix your credit score. And there are some things in your credit history that often will keep your credit score suppressed no matter what you do. If you have certain charge-offs or certain collection accounts on your credit, it's going to be challenging to get that credit score up without some dramatic credit repair. And sometimes even that does not work. So I'm going to walk you through the steps of how this actually works and how we help veterans with lower credit scores get into homes. Okay. Once you submit your application, and we build out your file and we take a look at everything, we submit your application or your file for what's called automated underwriting. It's basically a system that we pump everything into. And if that system gives us what we call approve eligible or accept, then you can do your VA home loan. Now, for everyone, there comes a limit or a purchase price where you're no longer going to get an approval on that file. So basically, the system that's run by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac tells us whether we can qualify you up to a certain amount, which spits out, that's why we tell you, hey, you are pre-approved up to $500,000, $600,000, $1.1 million, whatever, based on your income and your debts and your savings. It computes all of that stuff and tells us what you're approved up to. Now, sometimes we can maneuver certain things. Say, hey, if we take this and we pay off this debt, then we get approval or we get something like that. Now, the interesting thing is the pricing system still works the same. Higher credit score, lower debt means that you're going to qualify for the better interest rates at that particular time in the market. But what happens when somebody does not have that 740, 800, even 650 or above FICO score, and they have a checkered past with their credit? What happens then? Well, we do what we call manual underwrites. Okay, now not every lender is going to do a manual underwrite where we look at the specifics of the situation and we see, is it reasonable to believe, or does this veteran actually qualify for a home at this particular purchase price? Now, here are some of the things that we look at in a manual underwrite. Okay, the first thing is going to be your rental or home ownership history. Okay, do you have a 24-month history of paying your rent on time? Now, sometimes you can qualify if you live rent-free with your parents or live rent-free with someone else. We can document that, yes. But we're going to need to document the last 24 months of rental history. Also, if we're doing a manual underwrite, we're going to look at the last 12 months of you paying a mortgage if you actually owned a home. Do you have mortgage lates in the last 12 months? If you do, it likely will disqualify you for financing unless we can prove some exceptional situation where it would have been reasonable to believe that you would have paid your mortgage late and it was due to no fault of your own or a specific circumstance that has been corrected. So the first thing that we look at is your rental history or your mortgage history. The second thing we look at is your overall credit history, not your FICO score, not your credit score, but your overall credit history. How has it been in the last 12 months? Okay, if you don't have any late payments reported on your credit for the last 12 months, it is very likely that we can finance you and help you get into a home using your VA home loan. No lates in the last 12 months. If you do have lates in the last 12 months, then we have to look at the specific situation regarding the late payments and what we can do to justify those late payments. Now, there are some situations that are not necessarily unexpected or what we call creditable situations for you making a late payment. If you went through a divorce, not necessarily, a situation that's going to excuse those late payments. I once had one client who the Social Security Administration actually stopped her pay. She walked into the Social Security Administration to report that her parent was deceased, and they actually stopped her pay instead of stopping the parent's pay. And she ended up with late payments within the past 12 months, and that was deemed to be an exceptional situation, and we were able to finance that homeowner. We actually had a client who went on deployment. The servicer of their previous home, their mortgage company, switched servicers. They were not notified because they were in a combat zone, and they were on automatic payment and everything for like 4 months. And there is a grace period in there where they'll send the payments you made to the old mortgage company to the new mortgage company, but that ends after about 60 days. Therefore, he was getting his payments returned, didn't know what to do about it because he didn't realize his servicer had changed because he was in a combat zone and not getting mail and not paying attention to those things. So we were able to get an exception for those things. So there are some things that are exceptions, and it has to be, or usually has to be, a situation that is, that is not able to be foreseen for the veteran or the active duty service member. Now, if we run into these situations where we have a lower credit score and we're trying to help a veteran get into a home, the next thing we have to do is we have to offset the fact that we're not getting automatic underwriting or the system is not giving us an approval. We do have to offset that by communicating to the underwriter what we call, my favorite word, compensating factors. Compensating factors are factors that are outlined in the 26-7, that is the VA Lending Handbook. Most loan officers don't even know that this actually exists, and they definitely have not read it, okay? But the 26-7 VA Lending Handbook outlines compensating factors that you can use to justify why a veteran could be qualified for a VA home loan. So here's a list of some of these compensating factors, okay? One starts off with excellent credit history, okay? If you might say, hey, well, if you have excellent credit history, then you get approval in the system. Well, what if the person is going slightly above the purchase amount that gives them an approval and the system doesn't like that? We can document an excellent credit history for the individual to be qualified for that loan. Next, conservative use of consumer credit. If you don't use credit a lot, let's say you have a bad credit history, but now for the last 2-3 years you haven't used credit, and now you're still not getting approved in the system because of your past credit history, we can document conservative use of consumer credit. And there are a lot more of these. Long-term employment. If you have significant liquid assets, a sizable down payment you're putting down on your VA loan. Existence of equity for a refinance loan. If you have existence of equity, we can do a manual underwrite on a refinance. Little or no increase in shelter expense. If your mortgage payment isn't increasing very much over your previous rent payment, then we can document that. Military benefits. If you receive disability, military benefits. If you're receiving active duty pay or disability benefits from the military, that can be a compensating factor. Satisfactory homeowner experience. If you owned a home before satisfactory, we can document that. low DTI, debt to income ratio, and tax, if you receive tax credits for childcare, and generally the tax benefits of home ownership. As you can see, there are many opportunities for us to document compensating factors and really help you get into a home, but not every lender is going to do this. Again, most lenders will have a minimum credit score. We do work with investors that do not have a minimum credit score, and that's how we're able to get military service members and veterans into homes using a manual underwrite. So don't let anybody tell you that you do not meet the minimum credit score. Now, ideally, in order to qualify for a VA home loan and get the best interest rates, you do want your FICO score to be in line with a normal buyer. You do want your FICO score or your credit score to be, 680 plus in order to get the better interest rates. Of course, on VA loans, there's not as much fluctuation in the interest rate as there might be on a conventional loan or something like that. If you're, above a 740 plus, you're pretty much going to qualify for the better interest rates. But don't let anyone tell you that there's a minimum credit score, and don't let anyone keep you from using the benefit that you have earned in your service to this great country. So talk to you soon. Hopefully that helps and that gives you some information. If you need help and you happen to have been turned down from another lender, reach out to us. We'll take a second look at it and tell you what you need to do in order to use your VA home loan benefit. And if you are a realtor and you have a client who's turned down because the credit score is too low, or a lender tells them that the credit score is too low, please reach out to us. Don't let another lender's limitation limit your veteran or your active duty service member in their quest for home ownership. Talk to you soon. God bless you. See you next time on Major Money Matters.